This is happiness, to be everything at once. Be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new episode of Mood Prep. My name is Dave Nixon, and today we're going to go through kind of a very simple model of 4 different levels of knowing. And so I definitely would have mentioned this at some point throughout the podcasts previously, but we're going to revisit it as a singular podcast. The 4 levels can actually be mapped back to one of the developmental models that I refer to a lot, which is called integral theory. If you would like to learn a bit about that, the first place to start would be Integral Vision by Ken Wilber. But integral theory, one of the concepts is simply just a model of 4 quadrants. Excuse me. And it covers both subjective, objective, and individual and collective, and within that, just about everything in the world. And so these 4 levels of knowing tie back into that as well. And I'm not going to go too much how it ties into it. That's one of the questions that I'm more than happy for you guys to propose in the group, and I can point you in more directions. Today's podcast is more about seeing those 4 levels of knowing and how they work together, and then seeing what sort of common complications people have with it. So, looking at the first one, first sort of level it is know of. And so before we can know about something, we need to know of it. So there's things that we know we just don't know of, right? There's plenty of things, whether it be in industries. I remember, for an easy example, getting into whiskey. When I first started getting into it, there were so many things about whiskey I just didn't even know of, let alone how to pronounce the names, right through to the whole distilling process, what makes a whiskey or a bourbon and everything else, and it was quite fascinating. And so I started to know of whiskey, and then I started to really learn and know about whiskey. And at that point, even though I drank some and I tasted some and I sort of tried to understand it, it was just a lot of whiskey. not all at once. It wasn't like that. Only once that happened. But otherwise, it was a lot of information and a lot of sensory intake. So it was quite challenging to really go, okay, well, this particular whiskey is single malt, this one's a blended, and this one's aged, this one's not, this one's, better because of this, but this one's usually meant to be better, but it's not because of this. This is more expensive, not as nice as the one that's less expensive, so on and so forth. And so there was a lot of information to get to know about. And then the more and more I got into whiskey and tasting more and learning and hearing other people and learning about it and really starting to build a wide range of understanding the flavors and knowing how to drink it. That was one of the other things, is that I didn't even know about there's a way to drink whiskey rather than other alcohols, let alone water. Don't drink whiskey like water. Although some people drink water as if it's like whiskey and just sip on it. And so then I started to really relate with whiskey and the conversations I was having with people that knew a lot more about whiskey as well. And I could relate with them and started to really understand the flavor profile of what I enjoyed, and started to relate back to going, well, this one's, okay, I can see how this one's like this. I can see how this one is more like that. I'm using whiskey as the example here. So I went from knowing of whiskey to then knowing about whiskey, then to start really relating with it and what flavors I liked, what flavors I really wasn't a fan of. I'm not at that point of being a connoisseur. I think if you listen to the podcast with Matt Cooper and I talk about that at the start. Although I do like the sweeter ones, so to speak, the Octomores, for those of you that do know whiskey, ones that are very much smokier and peatier. And if you're curious about where my mini Schnauzer got his name from, it was actually from peaty, as in a peaty whiskey. But those ones I don't mind in the cold depths of winter. However, it's the sherry or maybe from some IPA barrels or definitely some Japanese stuff. So either way, I really started to be able to relate with whiskey and know which ones I liked for what reason, which ones I didn't like, and then when people talked about their flavor profile, if I was to call it that, it was it was quite interesting. I could then start relating with them. The next level would be embodiment, right? To embody. Now, as whiskey as the example, I wouldn't say that I'm at the point of being able to embody whiskey. My whole body is whiskey. No, at that point of being able to go, okay, well, this is where these flavor notes come from, and it probably comes from this part of the world and all that sort of stuff. And so you can start to see these different sort of layers and levels of knowing about something, right? Now, whiskey is my example. But we can also use this example for ourselves, maybe with health. And it's like, I know what to do, I just don't do it. It's like, yeah, well, you know of, and maybe you know a little bit about what you need to do, but you are unable at this stage, you're not relating with what you need to do, and you're not moving through these levels of knowing. Because we can't get to embodiment, which most people want with their goal. They want to be able to have it. Let's talk about health. A fit, strong, healthy body, right? But they want to go from knowing of to embodiment. They don't want to go knowing and learning about, right? Because that's the next thing. I know of it, now I need to go learn about it. This is the whole updating of health IQ I refer to. And when they learn about it, then they can start to then get that learning, that knowledge, and start to know in their body, right? They start to be able to relate with and build a relationship with what their health is for them. But then from there, as they continue, and it takes time and repetition, they can then move to embodying it. And this is where people that often are interviewed that are an embodiment of health or fitness or exercise, and people are like, how do you stay motivated? And what happens is someone that's like just figured out, they go, I'm at the know of stage. They don't know this, right? No. They're at the know of, maybe know about a little bit, but mostly know of stage. And they're speaking to somebody who's the embodiment of it, who's done it for decades. And they're going, oh my God, he's so motivated. She's so motivated. How do they do that? They're such an inspiration. But they're missing that gap. And the knowing about and the relating with is a fuck ton of hours and a fuck ton of conscious hours. The 10,000 hour rule, that's fine. But it's not just 10,000 hours in. So if you do 10,000 hours in your job, but they're the same hours, then you probably did 1,000 hours 10 times. It's not 10,000 hours. You did 1,000 hours, right? So this is a really important thing. It's the idea of someone has 10 years experience. They have 1 year experience 10 times. That's not necessarily 10 years experience. And so having conscious, deliberate practice and action and really continually moving through this allows us to build this understanding about, this knowing about, and then relating with, so that over time, the way that we actually behave, our behavior, becomes an embodiment of what it is that we knew about, and related with. And so it just takes time. And so that's the thing, is that if we're at the know of stage, trying to get to the embodiment stage, and we're trying to miss the work, it's like you're actually going the long way. You see, the shortcut is the work. And when we know that, when we realize that the shortcut is the work, and that's the smartest way, because that's how we build a long-term legacy in whatever it is that we're doing, not just on a global scale, fucking Tony Robbins style. I'm not talking about that necessarily. I'm talking about this deliberate course of action every single day, even if it's for minutes, but even for hours. And then over time, that's how we become an embodiment of something. It's really quite beautiful when we can break it down and see it that way, and look around and what it is that we do well in our life. And so this is my offer for you, is going, what is something in your life that you embody? It's just something that just comes so natural to you now that once wasn't. And what was the process of you doing that? Now look at somewhere in your life where you want to become an embodiment of something, and are you applying those same rules? And it's a really, really important, powerful question, because maybe there's a frustration there, and that frustration is simply wanting to have the embodiment without the work. And so the frustration isn't with the practice, or it isn't with the skill, or the whatever it may be. The frustration is with the expectation. It's within us. It's within you. So what are you going to do with that? And on that note, I'm out. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you found this podcast beneficial, It would mean the world to me if you'd pass it on to someone else that you think would also find it beneficial. If you haven't already, jump on Mood Prep online on our Facebook. It's a free group. I go on there once a month. I uploaded the Q&A this week. I'm going to start doing that. Hopefully you guys got something out of that. And moving forward, I'll also ask the group if they've got any questions. Otherwise, I'm out. Until tomorrow. Peace and pizza. Kick today in the dick. Slay the dragon. I'll see you soon.
To be everything at once, be unblinded, be unlearned, be unbridled and unburned.